The feeling of dread made my heart catch in my throat. The danger I was in settled into my mind. I had to get out or I would die. This thing would eat me.
Worry not, little one. I won't hurt you. I fear that you remind me of myself too much. Lost, alone, and hungry.
The creature spoke. The comparison made me sick. I was hungry indeed, but my hunger subsided upon hearing this. The monster then added,
I can help you escape.
How? I asked, forcing the word out of my trembling voice box.
Give me your hand, and I will lead you out,
the monster said. It turned its freaky hand around so its palm was skyward. I did not trust it, but I could not outrun it. If I did not do as it said, it would attempt to slate its hunger with my flesh. So slowly, I reached out. There was a loud snap. Blood landed on the fire and sizzled. It took my brain a moment to catch up with what just occurred. I looked at the stump of my wrist as it squirted crimson. I screamed in terror and agony. My nerves were on fire as I reached for a limb that was now resting in some monster's belly. I stood up instinctively and began to move. I could feel the ground tremble as the creature took chase. I could feel its hot breath on the back of my neck. I could hear the teeth that took my hand clicking behind my ears. I would not outrun it, but fear drove my feet regardless. I could hear yelling in the distance. The oppressive feeling behind me was gone, but I kept running. I screamed. I attempted to form words, but everything I said was incomprehensible. I could see lights. There were torches. I could hear people speaking. I moved forward, screaming more. I moved forward, seeing a halfling guard stand before me. He had his crossbow raised and pointed at me. I threw myself to the ground as I began to sob. The halfling gasped above me.
It's Edward!
The guard yelled. You're lying! Another yelled.
No, it's him!
It's okay, buddy, the guard said. I could feel comforting arms wrap around me. Hours later, I was in a hospital. A cleric had tended to my wounds. I did not know how the guard had recognized me. On top of my new horns, my fur had turned purple, with my hands, feet, underbelly turning blue. My brown mohawk had turned blonde, and my green eyes I had inherited from my mom had turned one red and the other yellow. I looked like a completely different person. As I lay in bed, a goblin woman came over to me. She wore a black dress and her hair was tied back. She had a swollen, pregnant belly. Edward? She asked. Do I know you? I asked. It's Arya, she said softly. I know, I look different. Time was a meaningless figment. I followed the pattern of sun and moon, but in the Feywild there was no pattern. How long had I been in there? A horrible realization fell upon me. I had missed years, so many years. The girl I was going to smoke and drink with was now in her 20s or even 30s. How long? I asked, dreading the answer. 18 years, Arya said, sitting down on a nearby stool. I gave a gasping, tear-stricken laugh that sounded like a hiccup. No, this wasn't right. I had missed 18 years in the span of less than 2 days. Suddenly, the loss of a hand had no bearing and no significance. Where's my mom? I asked, knowing the answer already, tears running down my cheeks. She would have been the first here, possibly Dad if he had managed to break out of prison. Gone, Arya said, putting a comforting hand on mine. I appreciated it, but it was a hollow gesture. Time had robbed me of my mother. It had robbed me of a life with Arya. It had robbed me of so much. I broke down, then and there. Time hadn't only taken, though. It had given back. Apparently, Mom had been pregnant when I had gone missing. I had an 18-year-old sister named Iris. She worked as a camp counselor at the summer camp I had spent so much time at as a kid. She was a silver lining and a light in my life. As time passed, people found out why I had gone missing. Feeling guilty, the owner of the Boar Street Tavern took me to the basement to show me the portal. He had kept it secret, and given my parents had been adventurers, I don't blame him. I appreciated that he told me the secret. He offered me a full-time job. I sold my mother's armor to try and pay to have my hand regrown, but I didn't have enough. I settled on getting a magical prosthetic. It was then I had met my master, an old dwarf named Galfor, who was from the mountains. He agreed to teach me the art of the artificer, so that I could make my own prosthetic. It seemed a wiser use of my money, and I figured Mom would want me to set up for my future. Years passed. I saved up and eventually bought the Boar Street Tavern. It was now mine, the thing I had gone searching for all those years ago. Myself, the previous owner, and Galfor had gone through on a number of occasions. It was beautiful on the other side. Buildings of metal and glass reaching up to the sky. Handheld phones that had all the history and knowledge that this world had to offer. Metal wagons that pulled themselves, and so much more. Life had turned around for me, and as I stood in front of my establishment one night, I heard a dark and all too familiar voice behind me say,
Thank you.